Hi, welcome to a new video. My name is Charlene, I'm an illustrator, and today we are going to talk about books. Basically, this is my collection of art-related books and also writing. And today we are going to talk about them. And to make it easy, I split them on 5 categories. So here are them. And let's start the video.
Let's start with books for beginning artists. They are in this category because they are inspirational books for those who are starting to think more about art as a career. This book, called Art Matters, written by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Chris Riddle, is a short reading book with inspirational words. I love chapter 4, where Gaiman gives the best 6 pieces of advice that he was given and completely failed to follow, but he wished he had when he started. I think it's a good book for when you have doubts about yourself as an artist. The next 2 books are part of a trilogy, but I only have 2 of them in physical form. This is a Portuguese version, but in English it's called Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It's a good book to get rid of some misconceptions about how artists make art. For me, it was a game changer when I read this book because I used it to think that every piece of art we make should be original. But you can copy. Just to be clear, in this case, I mean copying for learning or being inspired, not plagiarism. Show Your Art focused on how we can show our art to the world, even if you don't have a piece of art to show. There is a phrase that I like from this book. It is, make stuff you like and talk about the stuff you like, and you attract people who love that kind of stuff. And the third book, Keep Going, I have a digital copy, and it's also a great book. It inspires you to keep going with your art and how to stay creative. In this category, I'm going to show some books about the history of great artists. I got 3 of them as secondhand, so let's start with Michelangelo. This is from a collection of the history of the greatest artists. I got this from a secondhand bookstore, and it basically tells the history of Michelangelo and also shows his great arts and gives an explanation about each of them. These other 2 are about Goya and Leonardo da Vinci. I got them second-hand, but they are in Portuguese. But basically, they follow the same structure of the Michelangelo book. Half of the content is about the history of both artists, and the other half is about their art, and a little explanation of each of them. I got these ones because I like the Renaissance period, and I got Goya because I was curious about him, and I ended up liking a lot of his art. There are other artists that I would like to buy the book from this collection, and they are Matisse, Monet, Hokusai, Hiroshige, and others. I really like art history. And the last book I have from this category is Mucha, An Illustrated Life. I got this book when I was visiting Prague, the city where he lived. It is also about his history and it shows his art. I love Mucha's work because of the fluid lines that you can see in the woman's hair, in the clothes, and in the floral elements. Let's dig into these educational books that are good for self-taught artists. This book, called Sketch Every Day by Simone Grunewald, it's like a theoretical book where she teaches about art fundamentals, like light, perspective, and composition, and character design, where she talks about how to draw different bodies, hair, making faces, and poses. I use this book when I want to draw or paint something I'm not familiar with. For example, another day I was painting a fiery camp and I checked this book to see how is a good way to paint the fire effects. Also, you can use it as a daily practice. I tried to do that, but I had failed. Now I would like to show you this incredible book about color and light by James Gurney. He's an incredible realistic painter, and he wrote this book where he talks about the theory of color and light. Here you can learn about chroma, value, how to create color palettes, color relationships, and the explanation of some atmospheric effects like a sunset, fog, and color underwater. It's a book that I consult from time to time when I need to remember some knowledge or when I need to paint some specific atmosphere. And the last book in this category is this one called Figure Drawing by Michael Hampton. It's a theory and practice book where you read and you draw what you have learned. Actually, it doesn't ask you to draw, but it shows some practice sheets, and I understood that it's better to draw to internalize the knowledge. I am at the beginning of the book, but I can see that it's a good book. It teaches you about the structure of the human body and the structure of each part, such as the head, arms, hands, and legs. It's not so shallow because you learn how to draw each muscle, for example, but it's not so deep. So I think it's a good book. Also, the language is easy and it has a lot of drawings that shows what we are learning. Now, entering the category of art inspiration, I'm going to start with this book by Beatrice Blue, called Wonder. On it, she talks about how is her process of getting ideas to make stories and illustrations, how is her process of building characters and designing picture books. She also shows her studio, her favorite supplies, and it's full of her drawings. I like this book because I can get inspiration from her creative process and illustrations. Cozy Days is a book about the art of Ida Ville. I love her style and how she works with watercolor. In this book, we can see how she makes her own watercolor sketchbooks, how she makes her watercolors, and her painting process. Besides that, we can have a look at her paintings. So this is an inspirational and tutorial book. Now let's talk about this book of Lois. In this book, we can go through how was her process to find her style. She dives into each part of her style, explaining the motivation behind it, and giving us exercise to practice that element. Also, there is an entire chapter that is a tutorial, teaching step by step from sketch to final touch on painting, her digital workflow. In the end of the book, there are some tips about focused studies, stylization, and multiple styles versus one style. I like this book because I love Lois's illustrations and because it's a book where you can learn and practice. The last book in this category is this book of the beasts and spirits of Hilda stories. So basically, it is a bestiary of Hilda stories. For those who don't know about Hilda, she's a girl who lives with her mommy and she encounters many adventures. It is a graphic novel by Luke Pearson that was adapted into a series that you can watch on Netflix. By the way, I love Hilda stories. This book has some illustrations from the graphic novel, but the main illustrations were made by two artists, Jason Chen Piel and Sapo Lendário. I loved the watercolor style of the illustrations and how many creatures can exist in a fictional world. My favorite creature is the deer fox. Also, my favorite episode of the series is the one where Twig meets his relatives. For this last category, I have two books to recommend. One I have as a physical copy and the other is a digital copy. Let's start with the physical one. This is a book on how to write picture books by Anne Whitford Poole. In this book, we learn how to create stories from different perspectives, how to generate ideas, how to approach publishers, how to work with agent, and so on. There are also exercises at the end of each chapter that relate to what we learned in that chapter. So basically, it can work as a weekly course where you read about a topic and then you have to do some exercises. If you are planning to become a picture book author, I think this is a good recommendation. Another recommendation on writing is On Writing a Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. I read it years ago, but it changed what I thought about what was to be an author. He talks about his routine as a writer, his struggles, and he gives tips on how to be a writer. So, if you are interested in being a writer, it is also a good book.
That's it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I'd like to know which art-related book or writing book you like most. So leave the name on the comments down below so other people also can see and enjoy the chat on the comments. And also I left on the description of this video all the names of the books that I showed to you guys on this video. So you can just go there. There are also a link. So yeah, just go there and click on the link to see the book that you like on this video. And yeah, I think it's that. So thank you for the time you spent here watching this video. And yeah, see you in the next video, guys. Bye!